before I was like in the industry and an official professional EDI practitioner, and it was more in that like realm of just activism and learning, I definitely had this perception of like, well, why aren't they doing more? And like the people in these organizations and in these businesses, like they don't care. And if they wanted to change it, they would. And then you enter it and you actually interact with the individuals. We hold facilitations. We talk to the C-suite, CEO. Like we interact with them and engage with them. And then you start to see like, oh, they do care.
Right.
And they are just a part, the same way that we all are kind of forced to function within the system, so are they. And the system has been around a lot longer than all of us. It is one that we grew into. And it's a lot harder to change it from there and meeting people like where they're at.
Right.
And that was something that really had to change. But I definitely had friends who were like, oh, I'm surprised that was the route you took. And like you were much more radical. And some of it was very judgmental, and it was really hard for me. I had to sit there really and think about it. And I realized that like, again, it's the intent.
Yeah.
And the intent is the same. It's just for those with a different path or ideal way to get there, they will see us as standing in the way, when in reality, we're not.
Yeah. I love when you're talking about like how it can be judgmental, and I feel like that's the part that's often the most hurtful for me, at least as an individual, is to know, like, you know, this is ridiculously hard work. I mean, there's a lot of career paths that are so much more emotionally kind of agnostic. Yeah. This is like every single day we are like bringing our emotional A game. Like it's hard work otherwise, you know, intellectually and physically and all of that. But emotionally, it's really, really heavy lifting. And to do it for this long and this earnestly and always trying our hardest to like show up in the service of others is a real commitment. And then to have some of the most judgmental relationships be with people who look just like us, or people who say, oh, you know, who we feel like we should have the strongest affinity with, actually being the people who are the most judgmental. I feel like that's the part. And I don't disagree that we haven't, by any stretch of the imagination, made the progress that we wanted to, or else we wouldn't be up in arms. Like this, the world is on fire right now. We know that, right? But the world is on fire because we haven't made the progress we want and that we need. And so I absolutely support the fact that we need a serious intervention. But philosophically, I also am like, wait, I don't feel like this is the time to judge each other. I feel like this is instead the time to like find different pathways towards the same goals.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what you said is huge. That there are, and what Jayla said, like everyone thinks that they're doing different things. And I think that for a lot of people, they think that we as EDI practitioners might be ignoring what's happening. But for us, we have to look at it.
Every day.
We can't ignore it because we have to sit with people in their pain.
Yes.
And acknowledge and research everything that's happening in the news. Right? So it's not, we can't ignore it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge thing and a lot of times that people don't see. But I totally think it's a listening thing. Like you don't listen, you don't pay attention, and you don't try to understand like what we are doing, right?
But if we scale back and like look at, I think it's again another generalization of the industry,
right?
Because I think about it before I met you, DeEtta, and I learned about DJ and saw that you have a very like systems way of approaching things. I don't also want to like pretend that like every person who claims to be an DI practitioner organization does that.
Absolutely.
And that's a harsh reality that like us as an industry has to face. It's very oversaturated. And again, that goes back to capitalism. Some individuals and people are looking at ways, how can I make money off of these practices?
Right.
And I'm not saying it's bad to make money, but they've made that the sole focus. And whether that's selling checklists or simply appealing to buzzwords or going in and reassuring people like, okay, you've done good enough. You can put our organization on your PR label that we came through here. Yeah. I think that's painting us all as bad.
And I think too,
that's actually a really good point.
That's a huge thing is we're in our retreat for DJA and DeEtta's like, let's all take a step back. Like, why are we here, right? I think that's a question we have to ask all the time, which I don't think a lot of people ask that. But for us, and why I feel so strongly about working with you and at DJA and with the people we do is because I fully and wholeheartedly believe that we're all actually trying to make change and difference. And I think that we would be doing it either way.
Yeah.
We would be.
So,
we would
yeah,
be.
you should be getting paid for doing the work you've been doing.
Yeah, I do.
however long, because a lot of times for generations, we've been doing the same work and not getting paid for it.
Right.
Exactly.
So you might, like, we would be doing it either way. And so I think that
paying
makes a
people
huge
for their
difference
value,
for their work.
And it's really interesting. I think this is the first time even sitting here conversing, I'm realizing like, oh, like we all, that's the big difference. We truly believe in it. And even if we weren't getting paid, I deeply believe we'd all be still trying to make changes the way that we could.
Because we did. We have been. Our whole lives.
Yeah.
So generalizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.